Hey, what is up to fan of lamb lovers? Welcome back to the club. Joel Gamron here. Couldn't be more excited to be cooking along with you. How are you today? If you are new here, we are so grateful. And if you've been here before, we are double as grateful. We're so excited to see you both here. This is Fan of Lamb. This is our community, our club, our space to celebrate all things American lamb, local lamb, hopefully inspire you, empower you, and just get you jacked up about cooking lamb at home. Today is a doozy. If you've ever heard of lamb shanks, you are going to learn the ins and outs of how to cook this at home, rock it out. And let me just tell you, few things in my mind as a chef are as impressive as a perfectly braised, fall off the bone lamb shank. It is gold. It is absolute gold. Speaking of gold, this whole experience is hopefully gold for you guys. We hope there's nuggets and little pieces that you can pull off, but this is interactive, so you can talk to me in real time. You just put things in the chat. We have another chef, Samantha. Samantha, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to try some of this. I'm already hungry, so I'll probably be climbing out of my chair by the end.
I know. It smells incredible in here. We've already seared some off. We've got some swaps. We're going to show you what it looks like. I do want to call out, this is especially a very special class because this is actually Lamb Lovers Month. I actually think that makes sense because Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and I feel like lamb is so beautiful on the menu for that. Lamb's so impressive, and I just think that like you can bring it tomorrow, and this might be the dish to do it on. Do you agree, Samantha? Like lamb is just one of those things when prepared right, it's just elevated. I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like it pairs well with a lot of other classic, kind of Valentine's-y flavors too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And as you guys know, we're here celebrating American lamb. So that's lamb grown on American soil, our local ranchers. So many of these ranchers are family farms, so it's so important to support our local ranchers and what they do. They are the backbone of all this. And lamb needs to be in our diet, on our plates, in our families, so much more. We just need to see it on the table. So that's what this is all about, celebrating American lamb. To kick this puppy off, we're going to talk about braising, but the first thing I want you to do if you're cooking along is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now, braising takes a minute, so we're going to go through it, but the lamb shank, okay, the shank of the lamb is kind of, right, if you can think about it, it's kind of near the bottom, kind of by the foot. I'm lifting up my foot right now. Let me see if I can do it. Whoop, there it is. There's the shank. So the actual hoof is right here. The shank is on the bottom. And that makes it incredibly muscular, okay? Lamb shanks have so much muscle on them. And when I, as a chef, see muscle, I see flavor, okay? I also know that if it's very muscular, it's gonna be very hard to break down. You can't sear this like a steak. It will be really hard to cut through. It'll be too chewy, too strong. So we need to break it down by cooking it for a long period of time. You can smoke it low and slow. You can braise it or pressure cook it. So that's what we're gonna do today is we're gonna braise it. So who here is familiar with braising? Throw it in the chat. Do you braise a lot, a little? Let me know. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna salt my American lamb shank from up high. And I do that so the salt evenly spreads. I'm gonna do the same thing with coarse ground pepper, all right? And I'm just gonna kind of roll it around and do it again on the other side. So from up high, salt and pepper, all right? And meanwhile, I've got a pan, and I know this looks dirty, but this is not dirty. We've seared off some lamb shanks already, all right? So I'm gonna teach you guys how to sear this, but we got them nice and brown, all right? Now, a lamb shank, has so much gorgeous, beautiful collagen, fat. It's got a little bit of marrow right in the middle here of the bone, which enriches it. So it's just that perfect balance. One of the best things you could braise on the face of the planet. Who here has braised? I know I asked that before. Samantha, any action in the chat?
No, not yet, but we'll see. Hopefully soon.
All right. Well, we'll talk about braising. First thing I want to say about braising is what it really is. Like, what does it mean when we say braise? So, first thing is we need to cook this lamb for a long period of time. If I was to roast this and cook it in the oven where it's dry, it will just get like jerky. It will get soft eventually, but it will get really dried out. So braising is about searing and then cooking in a little bit of liquid so it doesn't dry out. All right? So we're searing the lamb on one side. And I like to just, when I put it down, roll it for like the first kind of 30 seconds in its own lamb fat. Lamb fat itself is so sweet, so mild, and it pairs so good with potatoes and scrambled eggs and all that good stuff. I never throw away my lamb fat. But we kind of roll it in there just to kind of get it all going, and then I just don't touch it. I just kind of let it sear. Okay, we're just going to brown it. And again, I did this in batches, so I did do some ahead of time. We're just looking to brown this. We're not looking to like cook this all the way through. Does that make sense? Hopefully that does. Samantha, are we getting thumbs up and all that good stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
People are excited to make this. And one person asked, do you braise in fat?
Can you braise in fat? Yeah. So you can cook really slowly in fat. If you've ever heard of duck confit, so that's when you sear the duck, and then instead of putting it in liquid, you actually kind of cover it in duck fat, and you cook it really slowly. And it's a beautiful way where it kind of melts off the bone. While this is going, we're going to cook these beautiful lamb shanks, but we need some sort of vessel to like soak it all up with. I am a polenta freak. Do you guys like polenta at home? I love polenta. I think it gets so overlooked. I was taught what polenta was in Italy. The first time I ever had polenta, I was in Italy studying cooking, and I had my first bite, and I thought it was so bland and gross. And I hated it. And my dad came and met me a couple of weeks later. We went to a restaurant, and he's like, let's order the polenta. And I go, Dad, I just tried it. It was so, ugh. And he goes, let's try it again. But this one was so good. And so I didn't know what the difference was, and it really comes down to seasoning. You got to have a lot of salt, and it's kind of like pasta, and a lot of cheese. And that makes the polenta really pop. By the way, let's check our local lamb here. Going to give it a turn. Look how brown that got, all right? So again, we're just looking to kind of get that outer coating crust, just like these puppies right here. So in this pot, I've got 4 cups of beef stock. You can use lamb stock, you can use chicken stock, any stock will work. Heck, you can use water. I'd be fine with that. And you can see it's just kind of at a simmer. So it's not boiling, almost boiling, but if it was boiling, that's cool too. And then I've got 1 cup of polenta. If you don't know what polenta is, Kai, can we get in close here? Polenta is, can we do a side view? Thanks, bud. It's this kind of coarse cornmeal. Honestly, if you think about popcorn, it's just that if you put it in a blender. All right, so this is coarse cornmeal. And we're going to cook it up by just kind of whisking our stock and kind of adding the polenta in a little bit at a time. Cool. And we do this so it just doesn't stick together. If I was just to like throw it all in there, it kind of gets a little bit clumpy. So this is a nice way to kind of keep it separate. And we just kind of every once in a while want to give it a stir. And we just want to simmer this. So once the polenta is in and you see like big bubbles, like you can see it bubbling right now, I turn it down and just kind of let that simmer. And what's going to happen is all that cornmeal is going to kind of drink up all the stock. It's going to get really thick, kind of like applesauce consistency. And then I'll show you how to season it once it's cooked. It will take about 15 minutes or so. But any questions on the polenta before we jump back to our American lamb?
A couple of little questions.
Yeah.
One was if that is instant polenta or not.
Is what's that?
If it's instant polenta.
Oh, good question. This is not instant polenta. The difference between instant polenta and polenta is polenta is coarsely ground, so bigger chunks of cornmeal. Instant, they grind it up really fine, so it cooks within like a minute. If you have the time, go with just polenta. It has a little bit more bite, chew, a little bit more sweetness. You kind of lose the texture of good polenta with instant, but listen, you could go with instant and I'd be fine. It's kind of like grits and then instant grits. Actually, it's not kind of like, it's exactly like. The difference between polenta and grits really is just yellow corn and white corn. Any other questions, Samantha? What else is floating out there?
Just some people asking about, talking about how they like their polenta. Somebody was saying that they love braising.
They love braising. Here's why I love braising. Can we talk about why braising American lamb makes so much sense? Braising in general makes so much sense. These cuts of lamb, all right, the more muscular ones, the shoulder, the neck, right? Everything we are using today, the shanks, these are so strong, right? These are the parts of the animal that are being used so much that they don't cook instantly like we talked about. They kind of take a minute. And because of that, people don't really know what to do with them. A lot of people don't cook them. So they're not in huge demand, which means they're a little bit more economical. And if you know how to cook them, it saves you a lot of money, right? Like you are going after the cuts that a lot of people are not going after. That's one, it's more economical. Two is that they're really hard to mess up. So you can't really overcook this. Like you could with a steak or a lamb loin or something. You can kind of dry it out. These, you can cook for hours and hours and hours and not worry about them getting dried out. They're gonna get just more melty and fall off the bone. So for crowds and lots of people, these make so much sense. They're like foolproof. Yeah, Samantha.
And one person was asking about what kind of oil or how much oil you're adding into the pan to brown.
Good question. I used a neutral oil. You can use an olive oil. You can use an avocado oil. We went with about a quarter cup, just enough to kind of coat the bottom. And again, the lamb has a lot of fat in it, like right here, that's just kind of starting to come out. And once your lamb shank is brown like this, you can see mine is gorgeous and golden. I'm gonna add it to its little friends here, okay? We're now leaving the lamb fat in the pan, and I'm gonna start by adding some onions into here, just some good old sliced sweet onions. And the reason why we sear before we braise and cook it a long time is so we get all those little bits stuck on the bottom of the pan. All those lamb fond is what it's called. All those little bits are gonna flavor this stew, because that's really what it is, and just make it incredible. And you can see as I kind of scrape the bottom of the pan, it's clean now. Like it's not as kind of dark. I'm kind of using my tongs to kind of release all the little bits that were stuck. And it smells unbelievable. Like gorgeous sweet onions rendering an American local lamb fat. Doesn't get much better than that. By the way, I do want to call out, this being Lamb Lovers Month, it's also kind of the kickoff to Lamb Jam. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Lamb Jam. Total, absolute blast. So the way that they're kicking it off is these are events that are in, I think, 8 different cities, Atlanta, Denver, Seattle, all over. We'll put it in the chat. You can sign up, you can go, and they're actually partnering, the American Lamb Board is partnering with local chefs. And these local chefs are putting out bar bites, like little lamb bar bites, and different types of cocktails for happy hour. So for this month only, it's that kind of bar bite event to kind of kick off Lamb Jam. There will be other events throughout the year. We'll make sure to keep you posted, but you gotta go check these out if you're in any of these areas. There's one in Seattle. My whole team and I, we're gonna try and figure out a way to get over there. They're an unbelievable, really fun way to kind of eat lamb in a new way, meet some new people, have a great time. So check it out, Lamb Jam. We'll put all the information in the chat. Anything to add there, Samantha? I just wanna make sure I mention all the good stuff.
Oh, I'm just getting links in so people can check it out.
Cool. I love it. All right. Well, let's go back here to the polenta. It's been about, 5 minutes. Kai, can we get to a kind of a top down real quick? All right. You can see that the stock is kind of gone, and now you're seeing the polenta reemerge. And you see kind of the cornmeal. and it's starting to kind of thicken up. So every once in a while, I'm giving it a little bit of a whisk. You don't have to sit here forever. But like, every minute or so, not minute, I'm sorry, every 5 minutes or so, give it a little stir, all right? And we're just letting that cook. Again, that's gonna take about 5 minutes to cook, or 15 minutes to cook, but it's just simmering away. All right, onions look awesome. Now, I wanna reiterate, our beautiful lamb shanks are not cooked through right now. So these guys, I'm gonna grab this one. This is still raw in the middle. Okay, if I open this up, it would be completely raw. We just browned them. That is all we did. You just cook them until they're golden and beautiful on the outside. That seals them and again, creates flavor on the bottom of the pan like we talked about. So our next step, now that the onions have had a minute or two in the lamb fat, we're gonna go ahead and add some garlic. All right, so garlic, we're gonna give kind of at the end just so it doesn't burn. All right, and kind of let that garlic open up. We have a cooking show that we work with the American Lamb Board called Homemade Live. And we made the most amazing Moroccan kind of lamb tagine. And it was killer. And we also made lamb loin chops. If you've ever had a lamb loin chop, we'll have to talk about that in one of the episodes. They are unbelievable. There's a little bone running through them. They take about 6 to 8 minutes to cook. They're incredible. Again, thinking about Valentine's Day tomorrow, and if you're kind of trying to think about something different, really impressive, cool lamb loin chop, if you can track them down, try and find some local lamb loin chops. They're awesome. But again, I think this recipe will probably take the cake. Anyone you make this for would give you a big smooch after this one. This one's good. All right, so onions and garlic are in. Now I'm gonna add some tomato paste. Now I know this is kind of a weird ingredient, but tomato paste is like tomato sauce, but it's left out in the sun for about a week or two. And all the water of the sauce gets evaporated, and you're left with this really intense paste. And this gives beautiful color to our braised lamb, but also gives it kind of this like, I don't know, sweetness that I can't even describe. So we want to give it a minute in the pan, toasting up, and this kind of cooks out the tomato flavor. You don't really want to taste the tomato flavor. You just want the color and you want the sweetness that it gives. All right, so let's just recap for a sec. We started by seasoning, salt and pepper, our beautiful local lamb shanks. Salt and pepper, then in a little bit of olive oil or neutral oil, we seared them until they were brown on all sides. And we did these in batches. You saw me do one. You can do 2 at a time, 3 at a time. Hey, if you have a big pot, you can do them all at the same time. But it's nice to do them in batches just so they have space. Then we added onions, garlic, a little bit of tomato paste, and we're just letting that cook. So that's the lamb. The polenta, we added to a little bit of stock, and we just whisk it every couple of minutes just to make sure it's not sticking. And you can see it's just getting thick and beautiful. So that's kind of my recap. Samantha, how we doing, bud?
Doing great.
Yeah?
Got a couple of questions.
Tell me, bring them.
I thought you might like that. One of the people was asking what type of pan we're braising in. Is cast iron okay? And we were also kind of interested in why does the meat need space? Like, what does that do for the meat to have space when you're browning it?
2 rock star questions. Thank you. First question is, what kind of pan are we using to braise? Cast iron would work great. This is a Dutch oven, so it's enamel cast iron, which means it has cast iron underneath these beautiful colors, but the enamel is easier to clean and a little bit more non-stick. Dutch ovens are nice because they're heavy and they distribute the heat very evenly, which is kind of what we want. We want all the lamb to kind of cook at the same amount of time. What's also nice about this Dutch oven is it has little dimples on it. I'll hold it up so you guys can see on the top down. Hopefully you guys can see. I'll try and catch the light. But there's like little dimples on this lid. And when I cover the lamb with these dimples, all the steam gets caught on the dimples and it drips back down onto the lamb. So this type of pot, which you can find ones with dimples all the time, these Dutch ovens, they're fantastic for braising. But you can braise in anything. You could sear it in a skillet and then put it in a hotel pan or a sheet tray or a baking dish. It doesn't matter as long as it's deep. You can do these in 2 different pots, all the same pot. The key is to sear it and then cook it for a long time in liquid. Let's talk about the liquid part, because let's get this going. There was one more question. What was the, why do we have space? Well, you'll see, I'll kind of add all these lamb back in here real quick. Once you try and sear all the lamb, and if we tried to pack them in like this when we were searing them, there'd be no space for the lamb to caramelize, to get dark, to get really, really crusty. So we do them in batches just so they have space to be able to do that. Otherwise, it'd be more like steaming the lamb than searing the lamb, if that makes sense. Great question.
Yeah, and my understanding with the cast iron is sometimes if you're using really acidic things, that can be a little hard on the seasoning.
You know what, Samantha? That's a really valid point. So cast iron, you're not really supposed to cook things that are acidic, like Samantha said. So things like tomato sauce, which we use tomato paste. You can, but some people say it reacts with the cast iron. I don't think you're going to die if you do it, but it's just something to be aware of, that acidity, cast iron, they don't really mix. That's why this coverage, this enamel cast iron is nice.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if you've got a really well-seasoned cast iron pan, go for it. But if you're kind of working on your seasoning, It can be a little hard on that.
Totally. Nothing better than a well-seasoned cast iron.
Yeah,
another
seriously.
question?
Sweet or sour frozen cherries for the next step here.
What's that? I'm sorry?
If you're supposed to use sour cherries or sweet cherries.
Oh, good question. Either cherry will work. Yeah, let's talk about cherries. So first, I'm going to add a little liquid to this just to kind of get it going. So I'm adding a little bit of red wine. I like a big, rich, deep red wine, so like a Cab Sauv, a big, nice Merlot, something kind of juicy and fruity. And then we're doing the same exact amount. We have lamb stock here, but you can use beef stock, chicken stock, or water is fine. So I'm adding that liquid, and then we just like lamb just plays really nicely with tart and a pop of just a little something. So we're giving it a splash of balsamic vinegar, which the sweetness of the balsamic, and you guys know this, American lamb and anything sweet. That's why we think about like mint jelly and lamb. It just works. Like nothing works paired with sweet like lamb, and that leads us to the cherries. So we actually went with some frozen pitted. These are sweet cherries, but you can absolutely use sour cherries. I like frozen cherries for this because they're going to kind of break down. No one's going to really know the difference if they were fresh or frozen because they're going to cook for such a long period of time. And it saves you so much time. So you can find frozen cherries. You probably won't use the whole bag, but make a smoothie another day. But use these cherries, right? And they just dance with the lamb. Like the lamb itself, is rich, and it just kind of gets cut and plays so well with the sweet cherries. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of dot these cherries right over the top. And these are going to kind of melt and get jammy and just really and just infuse the lamb with that sweetness. It's a great question on the sour versus sweet cherry. So
yeah.
I'm going to give this whole thing a little shimmy, just so everything kind of drops to the bottom. You'll notice that our lamb shanks are not covered with liquid. There's just a little bit of liquid on the bottom, okay? So some of them are still out of liquid. That is like totally cool. Don't worry about that. They'll steam. They'll be fine. We can kind of move them around, but this is kind of where we want them. And then last little thing here, optional, but I think it kind of adds a little depth. We all know that good American lamb plays really good with good, great herbs. So I'm just going to go ahead and dot some thyme, some rosemary. Look how beautiful that looks. This is what I'm saying. Like, you bring this to the table tomorrow or any day, it's a dream come true. I'm going to slap on the lid, and then we'll talk about long cooking it, but it sounds like we have another question. Samantha.
Oh, so many. I was just going to say, I love braising because you get that kind of brown flavor because not everything's in the liquid, but then you also get that cooking. And then why don't you head into the oven, and then we've got some substitution questions.
Ooh, all right, cool. Yeah, I'll swap these. So A couple options here. One is you can cook this on the stovetop, so you don't have to put this in the oven. You can cook this in the stovetop, just put it to low for about 3 hours until the lamb is tender, okay? Or you can do what we're doing, which is we already preheated our oven, so you put it in like a 350, 325 degree oven, and at the last kind of 30 minutes, I like to take the lid off, and I'll show you why. But you just kind of let it cook for 3 hours or so. So I'll just kind of swap these. Any questions on kind of how long these cook? I like to do them in the oven, just so you know, because there's heat coming from all sides, right? When it's on the stovetop, it's just coming from the bottom. Not the end of the world, but when it's in the oven, it's surrounded by heat, which makes for a really even braise.
Yeah, and I feel like you just don't have to pay as much attention to it either, you know? You're not like worried about it
Totally.
burning on the bottom.
Yeah, you guys know what it's like to have something on the stove and you like, go take a shower and you're like, is my house going to burn down? Like, you just don't have to worry about all of that. You said there are some substitution questions. What do we got?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of questions on like, you know, ways to change the recipe a little bit. And
Yeah.
if you subbed one thing for another, like what other things you might need to adjust to make it
Okay,
balanced.
okay. I love it.
A question about dried cherries, about using grape juice instead of wine.
Ooh.
Also using a crock pot or an instant pot.
Yeah. Grape juice instead of wine would work beautifully. Sour cherries, because they're not bringing the sweetness, you might want to go in a pinch of brown sugar. Some honey would be gorgeous, maple syrup, but just bring a little bit of that sweetness. Again, lamb just does so well and is complemented by sweetness, so it's nice. Or just double down on that balsamic. What was the last question, Samantha?
Using an instant pot or crock pot.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think pressure cooking is really intimidating for people, and I know we'll do a pressure cooking class. This is kind of all about braising today, but we can absolutely kind of like lightly hit pressure cooking, which is it just cuts the cooking time in half. So this takes about 3 hours to cook in the oven or on top of the actual stove. Pressure cooking is when the lid is so sealed that all the pressure gets caught up in there and it actually is hotter in there and it will cook it double. So Instant Pots, pressure cookers, those types of things. Long time, people are very intimidated by it because a long time ago, 70 plus years ago, because of all the pressure buildup, every once in a while they would pop and explode all over the kitchen. Those just don't happen anymore. That's just the technology's not there. We don't do that. It's very hard to screw up a pressure cook. So we will hit it one time, but you can absolutely sear this lamb either in a pressure cooker and do this whole thing in a pressure cooker, and it'll take half the time, or sear it in a pan and transfer it to a pressure cooker, and you can cook it no problem. Yeah.
And then also dried cherries. And I was kind of thinking if you add some extra liquid, you could probably make that work somehow.
Yeah. I wouldn't go with as many cherries if you're going to go with dried cherries. I love dried cherries. They're just so tart and they're so sweet that if we added, I think this called for like 1.5 cups or something cherries. If you added that many cherries, it'd be like a bomb of sweetness, probably too much and overwhelm our local lamb. So what I would want to do is cut the cherries in half. And I wouldn't add any, I probably would take out the balsamic. And the sweetness of the cherries would kind of bring it themselves. But I think that's a great idea. Also, you can mix them. I think that would be rad too. Let's just look at our lamb real quick. So this has been braising for 3 hours in our oven. And also, at the last, like I said, 30 minutes, we took off the lid. And you can see it just kind of helps. Look at how beautiful that looks. Is that not insane? It just kind of helps brown these shanks. And as I kind of pick them up, which is hard to do because they're just falling off the bone, you can see it just gets this unbelievable crust, right? And I kind of test it by grabbing a fork, lifting one up, and just seeing, can you kind of like break it down with a fork? And here, I'll show you a spot where you can see this. So kind of on the edge here. Can we get really close here, Kai? So it's kind of hard to balance it on this fork, but you can see I'm kind of cutting the shank. Look at that. Just tore off a piece of our American lamb shank with a fork. Zero pressure. It is falling off the bone. Let me try this. Yeah. It just melts on your tongue. I don't know. It's so delicate and delicious. So what I'm going to do is kind of baste these lamb for the last kind of 5 minutes here with their sauce and just kind of let the sauce reduce a little bit, which means I'm cooking out the water so it gets thicker. And this kind of like wraps itself around the lamb and makes it so much more unctuous and beautiful. So I'm going to let those do their thing. They look incredible. While that's happening, we just got to kind of finish off our polenta. So at this point, if you look at the polenta, I think I mentioned to you guys, like, we're kind of looking for that applesauce texture. If you guys remember me saying it, and we are there. So this isn't going to get any thicker. This is kind of the texture that we're looking for, right? Kind of flowy, beautiful. So at this point, I'm turning off the heat. So I'm killing the heat, all right? And this is where you got to grab a little fork or spoon, and you got to get ready to taste. Because remember, I told you at the beginning, I had one bowl of polenta in Italy that was bland and terrible, and I had another one that was like bright and beautiful. So this is where it all happens, okay? So the polenta is cooked. I'm going to try it alone without anything in it. Yeah, and that reminds me of the very first bowl of polenta I ever had, where it's just kind of like plain and one note. So we're going to add some things to kind of primp it up a little bit. So I've got some really good goat cheese. Goat cheese has that tang, that creaminess. So I'm adding that in. I'm adding in a handful of fresh grated Parmesan. So I'm going to go on both of those, and I'm just going to mix those through. And I'm doing this off the heat, right? Meaning like I literally turned off the heat. So they kind of emulsify, which means that the fat will kind of thread into the polenta itself versus break. All right, if you were to boil goat cheese or Parmesan, it just gets kind of grainy and it could break. So you just want to do this off the heat. So I'm just going to mix that in until everything's kind of melted. And then I haven't added one lick of salt yet. All right, so I'm just going to try it, see how much salt did that Parmesan bring, how much salt did that goat cheese bring. A decent amount, but not nearly where I want it. I'll tell you that right now. As a chef, you got to give some really good pinches of salt in there. So let's try that. I added 2 big pinches of salt. If you don't like salt or can't have it for dietary issues, totally understand that. You can get rid of it, add a little bit more cheese. Either one of those will bring a little bit more flavor. Also, a pop of like lemon, like a squeeze of lemon in here will actually brighten up everything. So I get it if you can't overdo it with the salt. All right, let's try this. Good, but needs more. Another big pinch. It's kind of like potatoes. Like it just needs that extra little seasoning because it's so kind of, you know, I guess I should say bland on its own. All right, last little bite here. Let's try this.
I love how you're showing us the, like, you know, trying, repeating, trying. I feel like sometimes people get so intimidated by a recipe, they think they have to follow it exactly. But you're the one eating the recipe. And also these ingredients are a little different. You know, maybe the recipe developer was using fresher cornmeal or older cornmeal, so.
Totally. And this is just how we cook, guys. I mean, you got to taste it, right, as you go. And you got to kind of adjust it as you go. And you can follow a recipe up to a point, but kind of like Samantha said, like you never really know what's going to happen. So you kind of just go with it. And you can follow the recipe to the T if you want to. We put the amount of salt in there. But you can also just taste it to your liking. So that's great. Last little thing I'm doing is I'm grabbing some scallions here, some green onions, and I'm going to slice these on the bias. So that means I'm not going to just cut them down straight. I'm going to cut them kind of at a little bit of an angle. It looks beautiful, but kind of opens up their surface area and actually makes them kind of taste a little different, a little bit more flavor forward. So just a little slice on these. If you have chives, that would be awesome. We're getting a little bit fancy schmancy here, but you guys get the idea. I gotta just try these. So good. Little green onions, man. Spicy, so bright. I also have some mint. I'm just gonna tear off mint because good lamb and fresh mint, man, that's cream cheese and bagels. That's peanut butter and jelly. That is just a match made in heaven. And it's because mint is so refreshing and bright, and lamb is so robust that they just work really well together. So I'm just picking off some leaves of mint, adding it to our little chopped up green onions. This looks awesome. All right. I want to just show you guys. This one I can't even grab. It's just falling so far off the bone. But I'm going to show you guys how I kind of plate one up. All right. So I've got like a little bowl here. And by little bowl, I mean it's like a trough because I'm ready to go. Okay, this thing is big. All right. So you go plate this up for the family, do a solo portion, whatever you want to do. But what I'm going to do is just grab a little bit of this polenta with a ladle. Look at this. Look how flowy this is. Kind of like risotto. Oh, just a nice kind of pile. And then the chef in me, whenever I splatter on the sides, I can't let that fly, man. I can't let that fly. So I always take a little towel. I'm sure you guys do this at home. But I just kind of wipe it. And you're just left with this perfect little bed of polenta. And then I grab one of these shanks. I'm just going to grab this one. This one is just crazy beautiful. And you can barely grab it because it's just falling apart. This is why braising American lamb shanks makes so much sense. I mean, just look at this. Before I put all the toppings on and everything, you can just like peel away. Look at this. Like I can just, without a knife, it's just falling apart. You can barely hold it. I mean, it's I can't even grab it on my fork. It's so supple. Oh my gosh. It's everything. Then I go in with a little bit of that juice, those cherries, those onions, and I just kind of douse the top. And you just let that kind of sit inside the polenta. Are we getting some oohs and ahs in that chat?
Looks pretty good.
I mean, this is what it's all about, you guys. Great for Valentine's. Honestly, great for any time. This is just one of those dishes. It's humble. There's technique to it, but it's so doable. And once you braise, you get addicted to it. I'm going to grab some of those scallions, some of that mint, and just kind of right over the top. I even finish with a little bit of black pepper and a swig of olive oil. And that, my friends, is like one of the biggest joys. Can we get a close-up here, Kai? Look at this. Is that not amazing? You don't need a knife. You do not need a knife. You need a mouth and a fork. That is what you need. All right? Watch how tender this is. Hopefully you guys can see. I'm just going to literally go in, and you just drag it through the polenta. The polenta almost acts like a sauce. I mean, I literally can't even get it on the fork. It's so soft. Oh my gosh. This is a bowl that dreams are made of.
Yeah, I think I'm about to be over there with a big soup spoon, eat some polenta and lamb.
I think a lot of people are worried about braising, haven't done a lot of better braising. It's just, this is braising 101. And using great local lamb, nothing is better. Nowhere is better to start. You see how easy it is, and the final product is unmatched. Like, it is just, this is where fall off the bone comes from. I feel like if I lift up this bone, I don't know if you guys can see this. If we get this tight, you can literally just, look at this. There's the bone. That's why we call it fall off the bone. All right? Thanks to beautiful American lamb shanks like these. Unbelievable. There's the marrow that's just spilling out into it, and you just get messy, and you have one of the best meals you've had in a long time. In the winter, braising lamb like this, second to none. Second to none. Well, I will also say what is second to none is you guys hanging out with us. We just so appreciate your time, your willingness, your questions. We really, as much as we love you guys coming in here, we love interacting with you guys outside of here. So still within Fan of Lamb, our unbelievable community, go to the community page. If you've never gone there, it's so much fun. We talk to you there. We're there all the time, every day, checking in. I'm there. I love to see what you guys make with lamb. We love to learn from each other. So you have cool techniques or recipes that you're willing to share, please bring them to our community page. We absolutely adore that. I want to call it out again. It's Lamb Lovers Month, which means Lamb Jam, like I said, is kicking off. So check out those 8 cities, Atlanta, Denver, Seattle. We're going to put them all in the chat. We'll also put them in the community place so you can find it there too. But go check them out. Little bar bites, little happy hours. Great way to gather with teams, friends, the whole thing. Any last thoughts, questions, Samantha, before we sign off? I just want to try this beautiful
Just people talking about how this looks like an expensive, fancy dinner, but it seems pretty easy.
Well, so much of what we do here at Fan of Lamb, you think it's super expensive. You could sell this for $45, $50 in a fancy restaurant. And the reality is when you make it at home, when you support local ranchers, it's nowhere near that cost, and the flavor is even that much better because you're controlling it. Nothing beats a homemade meal. So thank you guys so much for joining. We can't wait until the next class. We'll see you soon, and always stay a fan of lamb. Talk to you soon.